Hi everybody! Welcome to another episode of Sew Not Scary, where you are learning to overcome your fear of sewing forever. Today I'm going to show you how you can make this adorable Baby Yoda wall art using only your mini sewing machine. Yay! I realized I want to go for this kind of cutesy, cartoony look with those big eyes, okay? So that's what I've done so far. I just simply used a pencil and I rough sketched it out. I'm going to make multiple copies of this and darken the lines that I want to see. I'm going to place my original sketch underneath one of these tracing papers. As you can see, it's quite fine paper. And I'm just going to trace out the Baby Yoda and work my way up from there. Right, so I'm happy with that. Let's move on to the next step. I'm going to label out the different pieces of Baby Yoda that we're going to be working with. And obviously his nose and his mouth are self-explanatory. Okay, so with this first printout, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out different pieces of Baby Yoda, but I'm not going to break those pieces down into smaller pieces. So I'm going to cut out the whole head, but I'm not going to cut out the eyes yet. I'll cut out the whole ears, okay, the entire scarf, and as large a part of the body as I can, okay? So that's what I'm going to do. Let me show you how I'm going to do that. So I've got these ordinary scissors, and let's just start cutting, okay? Right, so I hope you can see that. That's one ear done. I'm going to do the rest with all the other pieces and come back to you and show you what I've done. Okay, so this is what I've done so far. I've broken down Baby Yoda into the different body parts, 2 ears, 1 head, and a body. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the second printout that I've got here. It's very faint, but I can tell where my lines are. This time I'm going to break down the cutouts into smaller pieces. So I'm going to split up the ear into 2 different pieces, 2 and 3 separately. Second ear, 4 and 5 separately. Similarly, I'm going to cut out the eyes as well. I'm also going to try and cut out the little nose and the mouth, and I will be cutting out the scarf as well. So let me do that and come back to you and show you what that looks like. Okay guys, I've done it. Look, see? I managed to cut out Baby Yoda's mouth and his nose. It was a bit fiddly, but not impossible. Obviously, the larger you make your project, the easier it's going to cut out. Also, if you've got an electronic cutter like a Brother Scan and Cut or a Cricut or anything of that sort, it's going to be super easy. But because this channel is all about very beginner stuff, I'm assuming you don't have any fancy equipment, and it's just fine not to have it. You can make it just fine with just a sharp pair of scissors, and if you've got tweezers, that helps as well. Okay, so now that we've done this, let's move on to the next step. So to make the 3D ears, all you have to do is just place this on a piece of paper and see how much is folded over. It's folded over about this much, so let's just add that much more to it, okay? And all you have to do is just connect the dots in a simple line, okay? So just follow this curve further up. That's gonna be your ear if you're making it into a proper 3D shape, okay? Okay, so that's the shape that emerges if we are making 3D ears. Okay, I hope you can see it. I hope my lines are dark enough. Okay, and then what happens is when you fold it over and sew it, it automatically adapts a similar shape to what we've done earlier. So similarly, the inner part of this ear, the pink part, is going to be a simple leaf shaped thing as well. So this might be parts 9 and 10 for us. Okay, let's repeat the same with the other side. I'm going to make another copy of this and cut it out as well. Let me do that and show you what that looks like. And I'll cut all of these guys out. Let me just quickly walk you through how I'm going to do that. So say for example, I've got one little piece here. Let me flip this over because there's more cutting damage here. Okay, so I'm going to put it in one corner just to economize on my use of felt. And I'm going to take some sticky tape, okay? And what I'll do is I'll start sticking all the outer edges of this piece of pattern onto the felt. That's all stuck out. Let me show you what that looks like. You can see the shimmering tape there. And now it'll be really easy for me to cut around my pattern because it's not going to move. So I'm going to do this with all the other pieces and get back to you and show you what that looks like. I've cut out the ears and the body and the head of Baby Yoda, okay? Wherever I found an internal curve, which is like a concave curve, I did not run my scissors down that curve, okay? I cut it straight across. And you'll find out why when we're sewing or putting Baby Yoda together. So now we can move on to the next step. Okay, so for this final stage of cutting, we are going to do some fussy cutting, okay? So here I've got a piece of gray felt, which will make Baby Yoda's scarf, okay? So I'm going to cut pieces 6 and 7 out of this gray felt. So that's on one side. Now here I've got 2 pieces of HTV. HTV stands for heat transfer vinyl, and it's a material that you see most commonly on t-shirts. It's kind of like a very, very thin sheet of this rubbery flexible material which you fuse onto fabrics using lots of heat and pressure, okay? So I've got cheap black HTV and cheap pink HTV. So I'm going to use a black HTV to cut out the pieces of Baby Yoda's eyes, nose, and mouth, which I've kept here because they're so tiny and fiddly. And I'm going to cut out the parts of the inner ear using the pink HTV. I'm going to cut out the pink HTV using these patterns, okay? And just like we did earlier, I'm going to tape everything down, especially those little fiddly bits, okay? Tape everything down and cut them out. Let me do that and come back to you and show you what that looks like. Here I've got a variable hole punch. It's designed to punch through materials like leather, okay? And it comes with different hole sizes. And let's punch a hole. See how that works. That's gone through, okay. And now let's select a smaller hole. So 3 sizes down, let's select the other one. Okay, that's gone through as well. Okay, so the holes have now been tidied up. I simply flipped it over and punched through it one more time. And now I can cut around it, okay, and get the eye shape. and I'll repeat it on the other one as well. So let me walk you through what we're gonna do. The ears that we cut out earlier, I'm going to double them up. So I've placed them on another layer of felt. I've just put a pin in there to keep them together. And we're just going to sew around the outer curve of both the ears, okay? And we don't really have to reverse stitch or anything because those corners will be tucked up behind the head anyway. So without reverse stitching, I'm going to start sewing. In my mini sewing machine, as you can see, I've put a lime green thread to match the felt. I'm going to put this underneath the presser foot, lower the needle in, and look what I did. I forgot to connect the machine. Let me do that. Okay, so my mini sewing machine is now connected, all set up, and we're just going to sew a nice stitch all the way around, okay? That's one ear done. We lift the needle out, make a loop here, and pull it out. And I'm not even gonna cut the thread, I'm just going to continue to sew the other ear. So I'll just bring it over to the other ear, put the needle in, lower the presser foot, and continue to sew. There, we've reached the end. Lift the needle, make a loop, put the needle out and pull it out. Let me show you what that looks like. Right, let me quickly show you what I've done now. Here are the pieces of pink HTV that we cut out earlier, and I've placed them onto these stitched ears, okay? Underneath my desk, my heat press is heating up. You can hear it beeping now. And I'm going to press the HTV onto these felt ears and then show you what they look like once that's done. Okay, so I've pressed the HTV onto the felt ears. This is a cold peel HTV, which means after pressing it, I have to wait for it to cool down before I can start peeling the cover. So now it's sufficiently cooled down. Let's try and peel it off. So I hope you can see this. The clear layer on top is coming away. Just gonna peel it away. There we go. Ooh. And the other side. Exactly like that. You want this? Miss Sophie wants these peels. There you go, Sophie. Peel both the other. And the other one. Let me look forward. But yeah, meanwhile, you guys take a look. I think this has worked out really well. Now we're gonna work on the Baby Yoda's face. Let me show you what we're gonna do. Okay, so I've arranged the pieces of black HTV to make Baby Yoda's face. I'm carefully gonna carry the whole thing to my heat press, press them out, and show you what they look like. Okay, so I hope you guys can see this now. I've pressed and peeled Baby Yoda's face. That sounds really disturbing, but I've pressed the HTV on and peeled the cover for the HTV off, okay? It was a hot peel, so I had to quickly do it before I could film peeling it off. But that's in place now, and the ears are in place as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly cut around the ears, so we've got both the ears in hand before we can move on to the next step. So let me just quickly cut around these guys and get back to you. Okay, so here I've got a piece of cheap poly cotton. Okay, it's not particularly thick. It's not the best quality, but for my purposes it's fine because I'm just making something decorative. So the plan is I'm gonna iron on a piece of fusible interfacing onto the back of it to give it some more body, some more strength, okay? That's gonna be the base for our Baby Yoda. So let me do that and show you what that looks like. It's very flimsy right now, but that's gonna change, okay? And So now I know exactly that pin marks out exactly where the midpoint is. I'm gonna flip this over, okay? And now we're going to start assembling Baby Yoda from the bottom up, okay? This pin will help me mark out where the midpoint is, and I'm gonna position this right in the middle. That's where I have to sew it, okay? And now I can just pin this in place, okay? So I know where that belongs. If I were smarter, I would have thought about putting fusible web on the back of it and just ironed it on and it would have stayed in place, but I wasn't thinking. I'm also going to put in the scarf that Baby Yoda is going to wear. So that's supposed to go there, and it's kind of like a jigsaw that goes there. I'm going to leave a tiny gap there just so people can tell that it's a little scarf. Okay, just a little gap right there. The other thing I want to make sure is that the curvature of the scarf is sitting perfectly. So I'm just going to align it with the curvature of his head and see that everything's fitting perfectly. So right now it's not. Let's adjust that. And it helps to have felt pieces which are slightly stiff, because that helps you work out the exact boundaries of your curves. I think that'll be fine. Okay, so now I'm going to set these two guys in place using pins. Let me do that. Okay, so these three pieces have been pinned into place. I'm going to stitch all around these pieces on the mini sewing machine. Okay, so my mini sewing machine is all set up. Okay, excuse the noise, it's the kids in the background. I've threaded my sewing machine with like this neutral stone colored thread, which should do for both these pieces of felt. I'm not going to get too fussy with that, and I'm just going to start sewing, okay? Now I'm going to go back and fill in the rest of the lines which were left. Right now everything is anchored in place, which is exactly how we want it. Now for the next step, what we will have to do is a tiny little bit of hand basting. So for that, I'm going to take a needle and a thread, and I'm going to thread my needle with green thread. So let me do that and get back to you. Okay, so I've threaded my needle with some green thread, okay, just ordinary green thread. And here are the ears that we made earlier. So we have to bend the top over slightly so they can begin to resemble the ears that we drew earlier. Okay, so I'm thinking maybe like this, maybe just a little bit like so. And I think that's gonna look good because it's gonna be tugged underneath the head partially anyway, like so. So I'm liking that. So what I'm gonna do now is just put a couple of stitches in there. You don't have to be perfect about it. I hope you can see it. Doesn't have to be perfect because they're mostly going to be hidden. So that's looking good. I'm going to repeat the same with this ear, okay? So yeah, those two ears are done now. Let's move on to the next step. If this is making sense so far, guys, do hit the thumbs up. That'll let me know that this video is helpful for you. Now we're going to start assembling Baby Yoda on the canvas we've prepared. So we know that his little face is going to come here and the ears need to tuck behind, okay? So I'm now going to position it where I want it to be. So I'm going to position the ears just behind the head, and I've got my reference image, which is this one, in front of me. I'm looking at it and kind of trying to see what would look good. So his ears are kind of level with his head that I'd originally drawn out with pencil. So I'm thinking, yeah, that's where I want his ears to be. So I like that position. So now I'm going to hand baste only the ears where I want them. So I'm going to take this away And I'm going to use my needle and thread to hand baste those ears in position. Let me do that and show you what that looks like. Hey, so now I've finished hand basting the ears in place, and let me show you what it looks like with Baby Yoda's face on. Look, it's positioned exactly where I want to see it, okay? So now we're going to move this whole thing over to our mini sewing machine, and I'll show you what we're going to do next. I'm going to start sewing as close as possible to the edge. There are two changes I'm going to do this time. I'm not going to backtrack my initial stitches. I'm going to gently press down on the presser foot so that the sewing machine doesn't skip stitches, okay? Here we go. Now on these thick layers, like I expected, the machine is struggling, so we have to help it along because there are several layers of fabric that we are working with. So I'm hand cranking the wheel and hopefully everything will be fine. Okay, so we've reached the first stitch that we'd made. So I'm going to lift the needle out of the project, make a loop right there, lift the presser foot and pull the whole thing out. Hey guys, look, it's finished! Now all I have to do is mount it on a nice frame and hang it on my craft room wall. Now I will be posting detailed up-close photos of this entire project on my website ooniCrafts.com. I will be putting a link down below for you to find those photos so you know exactly how to go about making this project for yourselves. And if you found this video helpful, guys, please do give it the thumbs up. Do subscribe to my channel. I'm a new channel, but I am working really hard to post new content frequently for you to see and get inspired and make lovely sewing projects with. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!